Welcome to Pagan Perspective. I'm Tara, your Tuesday subsidy host, and all of my technology is currently exploding, so this week's episode will be brought to you by the floor, pillows, and a microphone in your face. Well, in my face, technically. This week's topic is another from Danielle P., which I will read to you now. Recently in the news, there was a story of a 38-year-old man named Tony something, who was pronounced dead for about 45 minutes when he began showing signs of life again. He was in a coma for 5 days and then woke up. The media reports that he had no recollection of what happened. I was a little disappointed to hear that. I think one would have some kind of afterlife experience. Do you suppose this is proof that there is no afterlife? Do you believe he was really dead? I myself had an out-of-body experience when I was sick, and it shook my faith a little to hear that he had no grandiose story to tell about the other side. Okay, so, I myself do not believe in any sort of afterlife. However, do I believe that this man's experience, or lack thereof, is proof that there is no afterlife? No, I do not. I think there's so many potential explanations for what happened or didn't happen that in the end it could mean anything, and therefore it kind of means nothing. Just off the top of my head, I could come up with 100 different explanations for how the afterlife could still exist and yet this man not have an experience or recall an experience. Likewise, when people do have experiences, there's also 100 different explanations for why they could be having those experiences, some of which involve the possibility that there is an afterlife, and some of which involve the possibility that there is not. And to some extent, there is no real way of proving one explanation over another. For example, there have been some studies lately that have suggested that there are certain processes that your brain goes through as it's dying that could explain the kinds of experiences people have had and reported in near-death experiences and things like that. And you could say that this is proof that no afterlife exists and that these experiences are just natural processes in the brain that are happening as you're dying. Or you could say that these brain processes are going on because people are having these legitimate experiences and that their brains are showing and processing those experiences. So to a certain extent, it starts to seem like what these things prove really depends on what you already believe and how strongly you believe it. Point being that it proves nothing. Now, I'm not saying that this incident is completely meaningless or that it can't or shouldn't impact someone's belief. I'm only saying that on its own it's pretty meaningless, and on its own it proves nothing. Like, a singular study is only evidence that further studies need to be made. If you have a set of beliefs that suggest that something should happen and that thing does not happen, yes, that is good cause for reevaluating your beliefs, obviously. But what's more difficult to determine is what part of your beliefs need to be reevaluated and which part of them were wrong in leading you to that conclusion. It's possible that the entirety of it was wrong, but it's also possible that just a tiny part of it was wrong and could use some readjusting. So really, I think it's up to you to consider whether your entire belief in the afterlife is what's challenged by this incident, or whether your belief that he would have had some sort of experience and definitely recalled that experience is the part that needs tinkering with. Regardless of what you decide and where you end up with this, I have to say that I have a lot of respect for the fact that you're willing to acknowledge that you could be wrong. I know there are a lot of people that believe that doubt and questioning your beliefs is a really bad thing, but personally, I think that it's a really good thing. And I think that it shows a lot of character to behave well in the face of uncertainty. I find it really brave and strong and admirable for someone to be able to exist in that place of uncertainty and be completely honest with themselves and not have any preconceptions about what conclusions are acceptable for them to come out with and which ones aren't acceptable. To be able to go into that place and not become defensive or automatically justifying everything you already believe is extremely courageous. There's a lot of people who really can't handle that place, who despise it and avoid it as much as possible and try to get out of it as quickly as possible if they ever end up there. But I think there's something really positive that comes from being able to stay in that place and be comfortable there. When you come to the crossroads of belief, of deciding, do I believe in this thing, yes or no? Obviously, you don't have to go down either road, but if you do decide to go down one of those roads, a lot of people, once they choose one, go along it and try to justify their choice by making up lots of reasons why the other one is obviously wrong, or trying to make themselves feel good about their beliefs by being really condescending about the people who went down the other way, or suggesting that no one would go down that other road unless they were all of these negative, horrible things, and that anyone who had any sense or had any intelligence would obviously choose the right road, which is the one you took. I think that can be a really unfortunately tempting thing to do, and it's really important not to do that. And I think oftentimes that can be fueled by this fear of acknowledging that it's possible that you've gone all this way down this road and been wrong all along. That it's possible that the people who went down the other road made the correct decision and that you made the incorrect decision. And I think that's something that a lot of people find difficult to handle. And also there seems to be this degree of insecurity, like to acknowledge that uncertainty, to acknowledge that you could be wrong would be to send you straight back to the beginning of being at the beginning of that crossroads and have all that progress and all of those comforts that you enjoyed down that road be gone. But I don't necessarily think that it has to be that way. And I think it makes it much easier to be sympathetic and avoid being condescending to those other people who came to that same crossroads and decided to go the other way. I mean, maybe nobody even knows what I'm talking about, but there is this tendency, even if you don't go to that extreme, to portray the road you went down as being the more positive road and the other one as being the more negative road. Whether you think that it's less honest or less true or less intelligent or less rational or more depressing or whatever else. It's weird because when you actually talk to the people who went down the other way, they have their own way of rationalizing why their road is most positive for them and why they think that the other road would be negative. I know, for example, some people who believe in the afterlife and see the possibility of doubting the existence of an afterlife as this horrible negative thing, because it would lead them back to this crossroads where there is this awful and depressing and terrible possibility of going off onto that road of not believing. And as someone who doesn't believe in an afterlife, I can say that personally, I've gone down that road and I don't find it depressing and I don't find it negative, and I find it really disconcerting to be open about my beliefs and have people reacting like it's this horrible, negative, depressing thing when for me it's really not. And they treat it like it's this horrible, negative, depressing thing that they should feel sorry for me for, or look down on me for, or assume all sorts of negative things about me because of it, or even react as if my not believing in something they believe is this horrible threat to their beliefs and that they need to attack me for it. And the same is true of some of the people I know who don't believe in an afterlife, in the reactions I've seen them give to people who do believe in an afterlife. It's not so much that I've seen them act threatened by it, so much as they suddenly doubt the other person's intelligence or get really condescending and arrogant about it. And I guess I'm going a little bit off topic, but what I really want to say is there's really nothing wrong with questioning your beliefs. There's nothing wrong with being uncertain or unsure. There's nothing wrong with changing your beliefs or keeping the same beliefs or readjusting things over time. And actually, I think you can come through it more secure and with better thought out beliefs, and even if you do it well and bravely, as a better person. Anyway, that's my perspective, and I'm sure you will hear many very different perspectives over the rest of the week. That is the beauty of this channel. And hopefully, if I don't move anything, this setup will continue to work until I move back to England. And since this is the first time I've seen you this year, happy 2014!